Hi folks, Rodney back again. Hey, yes, I'm back on the road today. Seems like when I do most of my updates. But anyway, wanted to kind of cover a couple things. Recently I did a video about an initial impression or kind of a test drive impression on a Tundra Hybrid. And so when I drove the vehicle, if you watch the video, I wasn't really impressed. The biggest issue that I had is I really didn't feel like I was getting any better performance out of that truck versus like the gas version. And then the other thing was that when I put the foot to the floor, it wanted to hesitate for, I don't know, it felt like 2 to 3 seconds before it would actually take off and do anything. And so I didn't have that hesitation in my gas version that I have. So there again, I wasn't really impressed. So I asked for feedback from viewers and anybody that had already taken delivery of their Tundra Hybrid. Everybody that has gotten back to me has said that they've not felt that hesitation. They said that in eco mode, that yes, they would feel that hesitation, and so their question to me was, well, by chance did you have it in eco mode and maybe not the normal or sport mode? And no, I tried all three modes, and it, for whatever reason, it just hesitated. So anyway, I have a friend that has a Tundra TRD Pro. I asked him about his and what his driving experience was, and he said that no, he said that there's not any hesitation whatsoever. So I'm wondering if there was something wrong with the truck that I drove, maybe just an isolated situation. Actually had another salesperson there at the dealership that drove it, and he said exactly the same thing. I mean, he felt the hesitation too. So I don't know, maybe it was just that particular truck, but everybody else that I've talked to has been extremely pleased with it, and they say that it has amazing performance. Haven't really spoke with anybody that's done any towing to speak of, and so I'm still looking for some feedback on that. I watched a video last night, TRD John, if any of you guys have watched any of his videos, he puts out some great information, you know, for people about the truck, and you know, his experiences from owning one himself. Anyway, he made the comment, or at least he talked about, they make an air filters from TRD, and it's obviously it's a Toyota product, but it's a TRD filter that when you compare it to the filters that come in the normal production trucks, the fins and the filters are a lot closer together. And so on the TRD filter, it looks kind of like a K&N filter. And so it definitely increases the airflow. So my question to you guys is, has anybody tried it? And do you see any difference in performance or fuel economy? I'm actually considering doing it myself just to give you guys feedback on it and see if it really changes the fuel economy or performance. One of the things that he did note is that what it did make a difference on, you know, initial throttle response, and then he said he could hear the turbos a lot more, and that's one of the things that I agree with him. He said, you know, going from a V8, not having that V8 growl to go into a V6 twin turbo, you know, the trade-off, you'd like to hear those turbos, and I kind of agree with him. I don't hear the turbos that much. I mean, there will be occasion that I do hear them, but for the most part, you don't. So anyway, like some feedback on that, on those filters, if anybody's tried it. A couple questions that have come up recently. I had a guy sent me a comment last night. He said he took possession of his Tundra Platinum, and just like I'd made comments to, it had the body side moldings were lifting off. Those body side moldings are on back order, and I tried to order them from another customer, and they don't have an ETA on them. So anyway, he said his salesperson took some Loctite 495 and super glued them back to the truck. I don't know that I would actually go to that point in doing that. I mean, I understand not wanting them to lift off and not really having much of an option, but here's the issue. The Loctite the 495 rather, is a lot like super glue. And so in the situation that you get it on your skin, they say if you take warm soapy water, you can actually you know, pull your skin apart without having to rip off any skin or cut it off. But then the other thing is that what's it going to do to your vehicle? You know, when it comes time to take those old body side moldings off and put on the new ones once you get them, how hard is it going to be to get that glue off? So kind of keep that in the back of your mind. I'd hesitate putting super glue on there. You know, if you can't get all of and what's going to happen is the adhesive that's already on there, it's kind of like a foam pad. You super glue that to the truck. When you go to peel it off, if you can't get all of that residue off, it's going to prevent the new body side moldings from sticking as well. So kind of keep that in mind. A couple more questions that have come up. One of the guys asked about, when is the production going to get better? That's a question that nobody really has. Toyota is telling us that they think it's going to be at least another year before we see any difference in the amount of inventory or allocations that we get. It's kind of been widespread. So first off, it was the microchips, and then it was tires for a while, and on Tacomas, it's not being able to get the rear doors for them. A lot of aftermarket, or I should say accessories, like if you wanted to order running boards, or if you wanted to get mud guards, things like that you could normally get through a parts department, a lot of that stuff is all on back order because they're trying to ship it all to the factory so that they can produce more vehicles. Hybrid batteries is another thing. Now, I've not heard of that issue coming up for the Tundras, but like for instance, we don't get any Camry hybrid allocations or Highlander hybrid allocations. I haven't seen a huge issue with the RAV4 hybrids, but there again, it is an ongoing issue. So, I would say it's probably going to be at least another year. Another customer asked, well, how long is it going to be before they reduce the markups on the vehicles? And if you can find one without a markup, that's amazing. I think that's probably not the norm right now. I would think that most people or most dealerships are going to have a markup on them. Guy asked me, he said, hey, I'm looking for a Tundra T2 Pro. He says, what do you think the best way to find one is? And then he said, how do I get one without a markup? He said, everything I'm seeing is about a $15,000 to $20,000 markup. Number one of the reasons that the dealerships are marking them up is because people have been purchasing vehicles and they turn around and they flip them for a $15,000 to $20,000 profit. Now, I'm not saying it's right, but I think that a dealership, based on the number of allocations that they're getting, if somebody's going to turn around and flip it, number one, that's not helping their whole reason for selling vehicles. Toyota's on us right now. They want us to sell to our own local community. And, if we sell to out-of-state customers, and I'm digressing a little bit here, but I'm just trying to help explain. If we sell to out-of-state customers, we're not taking care of our own local community. And because we only get so many allocations to begin with, if we don't have people for our own community, well, then that actually works against our retention rate. So that's part of it. The second thing is, how do you go about getting a vehicle in a timely fashion? I know dealerships, if they're listening to this video or watch the video, which they're probably not, but if they were, they probably wouldn't like my answer. For me personally, if I was a customer looking for a vehicle, I wouldn't stick to just one dealership. I would actually search around to quite a few different dealerships. And the reason I say that is, what happens is when you can actually see when you can actually see a vehicle in our inventory, it doesn't show up in our inventory on our websites until it hits F status. By the time it hits F status, more than likely, based on the few allocations that we're getting, more than likely those vehicles are already been pre-sold. So it can be frustrating for a customer trying to find a vehicle if they're just looking on dealerships' inventory, or their websites rather. So what I would do is I would touch base with, if they have an internet department, I would touch base with somebody in the internet department that has access to Dealer Daily, where they can see what allocations they have coming in. Then I would check with them up front and say, what is your markup on it? And then number two, how soon could I possibly get a vehicle? Some dealerships are pre-selling vehicles, or at least taking a deposit on a vehicle and saying, okay, it's going to be 6 to 18 months before we can get you a vehicle. Well, unfortunately, they have no idea when they're going to be able to get a vehicle for you. What we do at our dealership, and I'm not saying one way is better than another, but what we do is we actually don't take a deposit on a vehicle until we actually have an allocation. The benefit to that is that you actually know when you're going to be getting a vehicle. You can see a detailed list of equipment. It may not be exactly what you were looking for, and I know some customers say that they're ordering a vehicle for them and holding out, but they have no ETA and when they can be able to get the vehicle. If you can find a dealership that will go ahead and order a vehicle and keep working on it to make sure they can get exactly what you want, that's awesome. But that's not normally the norm. I had a customer the other day saying he worked with a company and they have a fleet account, and their fleet account was switching over from Ford to Toyota. They said they tried to order a bunch of vehicles through a dealership, and Toyota wouldn't allow them to do it. So like I said, it's not the norm to be able to order something. So what I would do, going back to what first topic was, what I would do is I would get with several different dealerships, find somebody that you're comfortable working with, and then have them, so that they can see what's coming in through allocations, and then reach out to you as soon as they see something coming in, so that you can get a deposit put on one and secure that vehicle. So that would be my suggestion on how the best way to get it. I don't know that you're going to be able to eliminate paying a markup on them. Another thing, and this kind of goes back to the Tundra Hybrid versus the regular gas version. I love my gas version. Like I said, I've not had a good experience driving the hybrid, but that's probably an isolated situation. The one thing I would point out is that you don't get that huge increase in fuel economy like people anticipated. From what I'm hearing, it's 1 to 3 miles per gallon, depending on the situation. If you're towing with it all the time, you may see the benefit of having the hybrid. Otherwise, for me, it's not worth paying the extra money for the hybrid, and then the additional markup that they're having on the hybrids right now based on the little allocations that we're getting. So if it was me, I would probably go with the gas version, but like I said, everybody's situation